Hello, and welcome to Your Estate Matters with your hosts, my colleague Greg Brenand and myself, Nicole Garten of Heritage Trust.
Your Estate Matters is a podcast dedicated to everything estates, including building and preserving your legacy.
If it's estate related, we'll be talking about it. We're having the conversations today that will help Canadians protect their families, their assets, and their legacies tomorrow. Sandy, thank you so much for being with us to talk about financial planning in the context of estates.
You're very welcome. Very happy to be here.
So how can a financial planner assist with estate planning?
Well, there's many ways a financial planner assists with estate planning. The people who are skilled financial planners, they're trained and educated to cover many areas of your life, and that includes, debt management, cash flow, education savings for a lot of new parents, investment planning, retirement, and risk management. Like we have insurance for everything, cars, houses, lives. And that also includes, as part of their component of what they go through with you, should include estate planning. And I find that, there are some folks who are hesitant about estate planning. And sometimes it takes a few people to remind them. So it could be their accountant, and it could be their portfolio manager, and it can be their financial planner. And, maybe the fifth time they hear about it, they think, oh, yeah, we should do it. So I think it's really valuable to have all of your professional advisors remind you about estate planning, because most people, unless they have a business and have a corporate lawyer, they usually don't really deal with lawyers that often unless they're going through a divorce or buying and selling a home. And so they might not always bump into an estate planning lawyer to remind them to either update their will or even create one.
How can a financial planner assist with estate administration?
When we talk about estate administration, we're talking about an administrator or an executor who is helping to, protect assets after someone's passed away, make sure that the investments are being properly managed, getting in touch with beneficiaries, hiring professionals to finalize the tax returns and all of that. And some wills will have trusts embedded in them. So they might have trusts for minors, or they might even have trusts for adult children or grandchildren that say something like, at age 25, they get a portion of their inheritance, and maybe at age 30, they get the remaining. And maybe it can be a substantial amount of money. And if the beneficiary is capable, sometimes it's really wise for the trustee of the trust, who is most likely also the executor, to sit down with the beneficiary and a financial planner to say, hey, you've inherited X amount of money, and you're 19 now, and at 30, you're going to get the rest of it. Because it's never too early, in my view, to start learning about financial planning and investments and learning about the financial world. In fact, I just made my 15-year-old 2 days ago create a budget for herself. And I think it's really valuable, because then the beneficiary doesn't feel like they're asking, for money. They know where the money is coming from, what the money is invested in, what kind of return it's making, what happens if they withdraw too much, and maybe even a great time to sit down and ask that beneficiary to collaborate on creating a budget. And I find that professional trustees do like a third party to create that budget with the beneficiary, so that they can see that, it's not somebody sort of lording over them, trying to keep their money away from them. It's someone protecting their interests and really valuing that one day they're going to be in charge of their own money. And what a great way to start, to show that someone cares, is protecting their money, and wants to see that they will one day be capable of doing it themselves. So I think that's a great way to do it. There are some beneficiaries who have trusts because they're disabled. And a lot of people with disabilities also have their full capacity and they may live a very long time. So they may want to do more than one financial plan, sort of like on the offset when they start getting their money, when the trust gets established, and then, maybe every few years, especially when something significant happens in their life, because they may live until they're 80 or 90 years old. Even with a disability, that's very common. People can stay healthy, and you might want to see what the goals are for that money.
So, how do you start putting together a team for estate planning that might include financial advice?
A lot of people do have accountants because people file their taxes. I don't know how many people file their own taxes, but an accountant is a great way to start to ask for referrals for a lawyer or a financial planner. You might have a portfolio manager, someone at your bank or wealth management team that can refer you to people. I always think that you should ask to speak to at least two or three people. Don't be afraid to ask about fees. I always ask about fees, ask about numbers, what they can do for you, how long it's going to take, what your responsibilities are. And when you find your trusted advisor or planner, um, you can find out if they can work together too. Because, for example, sometimes I may get a referral from a trust company or a lawyer or a portfolio manager, and I always ask the client, is it all right if I can contact the person that you usually work with when it comes to your planning? And most of the time, they do want you to collaborate. And so that's how you slowly work together to create a team. You might also have a friend or a business partner who has worked with a financial planner or a lawyer that they like. And if it's somebody that you enjoy working with and you get along with, they probably have similar personalities to you. And then you might also like working with their trusted advisors as well.
I had a question about creating a trust from a will or just a regular trust.
Yes.
Um, Often we see or we get questions about creating one from an estate planner or whomever about small amounts
Mm,
being put in trust, and they're not really taking into consideration
the
the potential
administration fees.
cost when it's 25, 35 when they get their money. Do you find that that's a conversation that you should have with them? Or
I haven't had those conversations, but I guess for some people, they're assigning their sister to be the trustee, and maybe their sister won't be charging trustee fees on that. If you're approaching a trust company to do that, they would probably say doesn't even make sense because our setup costs and our annual fees this is going to deplete it. Um, what I do have in some of our when we draft a will is we say that it is possible that the executor or trustee can just give this portion to a parent to take care of, and they sort of like they're done with it, and then the parent sort of becomes
yes,
the the trustee because of the smaller amounts. But I usually find when I'm drafting a will, it's probably a percentage of the estate that's going to a beneficiary.
yes.
So, and it's usually not a small amount. So,
For a lot of people, myself included, when you're looking to work with a financial planner or another investment professional, there's all kinds of designations and initials. It's
right,
difficult to parse
right.
what's what. If I'm going to go into the marketplace and choose a planner, how might I do that? And what are all these various designations?
Right. There's no financial planning police. So when I first got into financial planning, I was actually working for a very big financial institution. One of the top threes in Canada. And at that time, my designation was lawyer. And I had been a tax lawyer for a few years and I had done all the tax lawyer courses that you
Hmm.
do once you're out of law school. So I wasn't officially a CFP at the time. CFP stands for Certified Financial Planner. But when they hired me, they said, you need to start getting your credentials. And so I was working as a financial planner, but I didn't have the designation yet. So you could be a tax lawyer, you could be an accountant and decide to do some financial planning and buy software and know your stuff. But I did eventually get my certified financial planner designation, and in Canada, those people are certified by the Financial Planning Standards Board of Canada. FP Canada for short. So if you Google FP Canada, you can go to their website and actually find a financial planner. You can search by location, by designation, and find a planner. You'll find that there's probably around 18,000 people in Canada with that designation, and a lot of them will be working for financial institutions. There are a portion who are fee-based only, so they're independent planners,
Mhm.
and you pay them like you would pay an accountant or a lawyer, an hourly rate. You
Mhm.
can let them know what your objectives are. I've worked with people who've just said, I just need to know, Sandy, if I'm ready to take on a mortgage. And I don't know, I've never purchased a house or a condo before. I have no idea what all the costs are, property transfer tax, strata fees, maintenance, if there's any other costs they've never heard about because they've never owned a place. And then, I'll maybe help them with a cash flow analysis and other things about
Mhm.
mortgages that they've never encountered before. And then other planners will also do like the whole broad 50-page review that covers everything from charitable giving to debt management to retirement planning, the whole thing. And, they might even do a net worth analysis where they say, today you are worth X amount of dollars and you have this much debt, but by the time you're retired, assuming none of these assumptions change, and there's lots of assumptions like rate of return and tax rates, and by the time you're 85, you're going to be worth this much money and your estate is going to owe this much taxes. So some Canadians get complimentary financial plans from their portfolio manager,
Mhm.
investment advisor, and they're usually great plans with really great information that maybe you haven't thought about yet, like starting a charitable giving fund that is available from that financial institution without having to set up your own foundation. They may talk about how you can better income split with your spouse and give
Mhm.
you all of those suggestions. They don't implement the plan. So they'll give you the ideas and the strategies, and then you still have to hire your lawyer and accountant to implement some of their suggestions if you wish. But nothing in life is really free. Embedded in those plans, which have wonderful, useful information, are things like, well, you're disclosing a lot of information about yourself. So now they have knowledge of all of your other assets that are being held at other financial institutions.
Mhm.
They have more of an idea of maybe how much life insurance you might need if you wanted some help with that, if your estate didn't want to pay all those taxes. They may introduce you to their trust services. So it's a great free plan, but they also want to sell you something because it costs a lot of money to create those plans. That's fine as long as you know that and you're still getting great information. If you hire a fee-based planner, typically they don't sell anything. So I also create fee-based plans and I don't sell anything. So if someone says to me, what do you think? Do you think I need this insurance? I'm completely unbiased. I'm not going to get a commission from it. And I can just tell them what I think in terms of their overall plan, if they need that insurance, how much they need, and maybe introduce them to the fact that maybe they don't need a whole life policy. Maybe they just need a term policy for the next 15 years.
Mhm.
And so I'm giving them options. And because I'm unbiased and I'm not earning any commissions, I may be more flexible in all of the other options I can
Mhm.
give the client. I wanted to also say sometimes people get confused about what a CFA is and a CFP. So the CFA stands for Chartered Financial Analysts. And a lot of those people work in the financial industry. Um, Either as portfolio manager, but also back office work, like actually managing the portfolios and analyzing all of the data. And some of those people can also have access to financial planning. Um, what is it? Software.
Mhm.
And a lot of them also work with CFPs if they're working in a financial institution. CFAs, for people in the industry, they know that there's 3 exams that are very, very difficult, and those people have a very in-depth investment knowledge and education, and they do touch on aspects of financial planning and tax planning in that course. It's an international designation, so some of the financial planning, tax planning education that you get in there may be more broad, and it may not be as detailed as a CFP, but it is a very difficult designation to get. And so a lot of portfolio managers and people who are very respected in the industry will also have that designation. But I just wanted to mention that because they sound very close,
Hmm.
but they are a little bit different.
So you mentioned people are hiring you if they're thinking of buying their first home, and I was thinking, what a smart thing to do to make sure that they've got all their T's crossed and I's dotted. What are some other life events where people might consider hiring a financial planner?
That is a great question. Thank you. I actually brought a Venn diagram, and I know this might be on YouTube, and so I'll just sort of flash that there, and maybe I'll send you a digital copy if you want to look at it. So basically what I've got here is a Venn diagram with three circles. One is financial, advanced care planning, and estate planning. And this is actually a Venn diagram that came out of my own brain. And when it happened, I was very excited. I was at the time working for Advanced Care Planning Canada, and they're affiliated with the Canadian Hospice Palliative Care Association.
Hmm.
And they said to me, we want you to come up with some sort of diagram. And so this is my life planning model, which I also call, adulting, right? So when you're an adult, there are certain things that you have to do, like understand what your cash and debt management is, save for your or your kids' education, invest, think about your retirement, I think about all the insurance I own. It's crazy, right? I spend so much money on insurance, whether it's health insurance, insurance for your homes, for your vehicles, for your life. Um, you know, you may want to talk to your professional advisors about a cohabitation or marriage agreement, or maybe your kids are thinking of moving in with somebody and you want to talk to them about your kids' cohabitation and marriage agreement. And so there is some overlap, right? So when you're talking to maybe someone who's more in the financial realm, they may ask you to think about tax planning and gifting. And when you're talking to someone in the realm of your estate, which may include your will, your trusts, your life insurance, your business succession planning, and other trusts like will substitutes, like alter ego trusts, they may also overlap and talk about tax planning and gifting. And then there's a point in your life where you're thinking about your parents or yourself, and you're thinking about, how do I want to be taken care of when I'm elderly, or maybe when I'm incompetent or incapable. And so there's going to be an overlap with, powers of attorney and so forth, and who you're going to appoint as your substitute decision maker. So, when you're buying your first place, when you get your first job and you have to fill out all those HR forms that include your RSP, that maybe you've got RSP matching with your work,
Hmm.
when you're going to have your first baby, um, or even talking about other people in your family who are also going to have significant life events. So I've tried to speak to my parents about their advanced care planning. The conversation was not fruitful. And I gave them a tour of a long-term care facility just to show them, they live in a house that isn't great for mobility. So, when they can't go up the stairs anymore or so forth. But, they're very stubborn, but at least I attempted that conversation, right? And every now and then I will attempt that conversation. But when you have those conversations with family members or yourself, that's a great time to talk to your trusted advisors about whether it's your will or your financial plan or what to do with your money, right? Like, I'm a big advocate of gifting while you're alive. There are lots of families that do have extra saved up money that they will never spend in their lifetime. And people are living really long. So if you're going to die in your 80s and 90s, your kids might be in their 60s or 70s by that time, and they will be also seniors. And so if you're in your 60s or 70s and you've got assets that you're never going to use, especially if it's cash, and your kids are in their 30s and 40s and really trying to make their way still and trying to raise their family, that's a great time to gift, because then you can actually be alive to witness the great work that your savings are going. So um, your financial planner can help sort of direct you to thinking about okay, when you're gone, when you've died, which money is going to be inherited through your will, and what kind of assets are going to be inherited just through beneficiary designations like your RIF and your life insurance. Those will bypass the will. They'll go directly to that beneficiary. There's no probate. There's no like talking about what you've inherited in your will. And then there's another, there's another pool of money that doesn't even have to go into any of those pools. It can just go during your lifetime. So
Thank you so much, Sandy. You've been such a wealth of information, and I think it's been so valuable for our listeners. How can they find you?
I am at thewealthdoc.ca. That is my fee-based financial planning business. And I am also affiliated with Onyx Law in Vancouver, where I do estate planning.
Wonderful. Thank you again.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Sandy.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered individual legal, financial, or tax advice. Make sure to consult the advisor of your choice to advise you on your own circumstances. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Your Estate Matters. If you like this podcast, make sure to follow it on your podcast platform of choice.
Whether you are planning your own estate or you're acting as executor for somebody else's, Heritage Trust can help. Partner with Heritage Trust to protect your family, your assets, and your legacy.
If you would like more information about Heritage Trust, please visit our website at heritagetrustcompany.ca.
This podcast is produced by Podfather Creative.